Mike here from Being Outdoors. Want to talk about an area, it's called a high percentage area, something that a lot of people overlook and they don't necessarily think about it in the right way. So I want to show you guys something. So I'm going to zoom in on my phone here. If you see, you can kind of see this area right here where there's some just sparse grass, but this isn't actually connected to the shore. You'll see there's a gap between that thicker lily pad patch and this sparse, kind of nasty looking little chunk of grass. So something like this, guys, doesn't look like much at all. It actually looks barely, you can barely see it even if you're looking at it from a distance. But in my opinion, this is one of the most important little things that you can do to differentiate yourself from other fishermen, because this area is somewhere that the fish are going to hang out. It's what's called a high percentage area. And sometimes watching YouTube myself, I noticed that, you know, guys talk about high percentage areas and they talk about, you know, you should use this bait in a high percentage area and more likely you'll catch fish. But no one ever actually says what a high percentage area is. No one ever identifies and shows you what to look for. They just tell you high percentage areas. Well, I'm going to try to do that a little bit more this year for you guys. So this right here is what I would call a high percentage area. A unique piece of structure, unique piece of grass, whether it's a single stick out in the water, a little grass mat that's not with the rest of the grass, is an area that those fish will flock to. And the reason they do that is there's a couple of reasons. The main reason is because bass like having an ambush position. So there's a good chance that over here where I showed you guys that there's all that heavy grass, there's a lot of bait fish in there. There's going to be bluegill in there eating off the pads. There's going to be frogs. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. But these bass out here in this little section are able to see more of that thicker area, but still feel a sense of security because they're in cover, just not as thick. And the fish and the bait fish and everything else that's in that thicker stuff is not going to be able to tell that they're there. They can shoot across that gap. And I'll show you guys right here in the graphic. They could literally shoot out across when a fish swims across that front grass edge, smash those fish, and they're gonna not see them coming because their instincts are gonna be to look into the thick stuff. So that's something that's very important, is bass are ambush predators. They're looking to get any advantage they can, and hiding in something that's not exactly obvious is going to give them an advantage because ultimately the other bait fish are not looking for them there. The other thing, and I think this has a big part of it, is that those little unique pieces of structure, those little pieces of grass, the single lily pad out in the water, the single little stick sticking up out of the water, people, as in human beings, don't necessarily identify that as somewhere they need to cast. So it gets left alone. And those fish identify that. They see that if I'm always on the main area, I get caught or I get messed with or I see human activity. If I'm in this little isolated area, I don't. So it becomes a learned behavior that they feel safe on those unique pieces of structure. So don't fall for the illusion that just because it's one stick or one little tiny clump of grass that there's no fish on it. In my experience, some of the biggest fish I've caught have been on that exact kind of structure. So I hope that information helps you guys. I hope it makes you think a little bit more about how you attack a body of water, because sometimes the unique stuff is the sneaky stuff that you need to be fishing. I want to thank you guys for coming along with me. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and as always, let's get out there, catch more fish.